Okay, now, sequence of organization. Cells make up tissues, tissues make up organs, organs make up organ systems, right? Boom. We then talked about the 4 types of tissues. Here we go. Muscle tissue, epithelial tissue, connective tissue, and nervous tissue. Make sure you know this what their functions are. And then there is a matching question. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 systems. We have 11 systems, right? So match the system on what it does. For example, which is not on there, the skeletal system. Skeletal provides support, it also produces blood, right? Be able to match it. Remember how I did the key terms there? So 4 questions on the organ systems. There's a question about the 3 types of muscles. We have skeletal muscles, which are striated and voluntary. Look at, we can control our skeletal muscles. Our cardiac muscles, which is our heart muscles, are striated but involuntary. And our smooth muscles hold our organs, our blood vessels, and stuff like that in place, which are non-striated and non-voluntary. Okay. We have positive and negative feedback. Where is it? There's a question right here. Sometimes the map makes things up in terms of so they fit on the page. Remember that the liver is the only organ that grows back, right? You can take an adult liver, cut it down, and put it into a child, and it will grow with the child. Or you can take a piece of my liver, take it out, and that will grow back. Okay? So, the next question is negative and positive feedback. Okay? Know that when our blood sugar level gets low, let's do it high. When our blood sugar level gets high, we secrete insulin, right? And that changes glucose into glycogen. When our blood sugar gets low, we secrete glycagon, which takes glycogen and turns it into glucose. Remember, glycogen is a polysaccharide, it breaks it down. Okay? The same with temperature. And they're both negative feedback. Childbirth was positive feedback. Once the uterus contracts, the next time it contracts harder. And it contracts harder. Okay? The liver and the gallbladder are accessory organs. The liver secretes bile, which breaks down fat into the bloodstream. The gallbladder secretes insulin. It also secretes a neutralizer, because remember the stomach is very, very acidic, right? And it neutralizes the stomach contents before it enters the small intestines. Okay, know the digestive system. Remember that diagram? Know its structures and its functions. Keep an eye in what that structure is and what it does. There's 3, 4 questions on it. Okay. Remember our respiratory quiz today? We have the pharynx that leads to the trachea, that leads to the bronchi, that leads to the bronchioles, and the functional units of the lungs, the little balls inside our lungs, are the alveoli, and that's where the diffusion takes place. The functional units of the lungs are the alveoles. The functional units of the kidneys are nephrons, right? The functional units of our intestines are villi. Okay. Passage of air. And we have a diagram of that too. Okay, we have the diagram, passage. Okay. Know the 3 respiratory diseases. There's actually 4. You're only being tested on 3. But there is bronchitis, asthma, emphysema, and lung cancer. Know what they are. For example, emphysema is the loss of functional lung tissue, right? While bronchitis is the filling of the respiratory system with mucus, which which makes it hard to absorb oxygen. Okay, systolic, diastolic on the circulatory system. Systolic or diastolic, which one is the heart contracting?
Is it diastolic?
That'd be systolic. Systolic's on top, S is on top, okay? And here we go. I showed you you'd see it. There it's on the test. Be able to label the chambers, label the veins, arteries. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 questions on it. Okay? Is it high in oxygen, low in oxygen? Is this an artery, vein, so forth? Okay. Know how the blood circulates? It goes from the right atrium into the right ventricle, then to the lungs and back, and then to the right ventricle, left ventricle to the body, and then back to the right atrium. Be able to trace a blood through the circulatory system. We had a diagram of the excretory system where we had the kidneys, which there are 2 ureters that lead to the urinary bladder, right? The urine is stored, it leads through the urethra. We know that bone all originates in bone marrow, which are stem cells. Okay, here's a picture of a female reproductive system. Remember the structures that I told you about and know about? Okay. Same with the male reproductive system. Okay, know what each trimester does? Okay, this is very interesting. Remember the SRY gene? Right? Here we go. What we know about genes, right? We know that genes can mutate, right? We know that the SRY gene triggers the development of a human male, right? It creates testosterone and then it triggers all those other, okay? What would happen if that gene is mutated and doesn't work? What would the baby turn into? A female. But she'll have an X and a Y chromosome. It's just that gene didn't turn on that triggered it changing. Remember how we have both male and female organs, right? And that would take over, and that's exactly how certain things happen there. Okay? The other thing is, why are our hands webbed when the fingers develop? Not sure. Pardon? We don't come from ducks, no. Okay, not that. Think about it. How thin are those bones at first? Very thin. When they build a house, are there support beams and other things to support things when they're building it? That web is to hold those fingers in place so they don't get all curly and knobby and the child is born with fingers that are going all over the place, right? It keeps them nice and straight. And then those cells in between are triggered to die, and we have our fingers. It would be nothing for us to have webbed hands, right? All we had to do is not turn off those genes in between, the skin in between our hands, and we would have webbed hands, right? That's easy to do, okay? So, it's amazing what the genes do, right? Okay, then the rest is, there's a question about the SRY gene. Remember the 3 layers, the mesoderm, the endoderm, and the ectoderm? Okay, the ectoderm turns into skin, right, in the nervous system. Know what the 3 layers do? Okay, now there's something about the Indian River Lagoon, right? Cross those out, okay? See where it says, understand the Indian River Lagoon, the wet season, and exotic species? Those are not on our test. That was the day we never had. The day that never was. Okay? From now on, it's all review questions. See that dotted line? Okay? We have approximately 50 questions from that first part, 50 questions for the bottom. Okay, first of all, know what science, systematic way of solving problem and answering questions about the natural world, right? So, know the difference between a scientific theory and an everyday theory. Okay, we know that. In order for something to be different, it has to be significantly different, right? And then we go right into our different organic molecules. We have carbohydrates, which are sugars, monosaccharide, disaccharide, polysaccharide. Remember the common ones like sucrose and glucose, right? And glycogen. And then we have a question, well, we're off track. We have a question about water, okay, and pH. pH of 7 is what? Neutral. When you go lower than 7, it is a acid. Higher than 7, a base. And each number is 10 times stronger, right? Know that? Okay. What's the main energy molecule? Back to macromolecules.
Sugar.
Sugars, right. Carbohydrates. And then we have matching. Carbohydrates, proteins, nucleic acids, and lipids on one side. Common examples on the other side. Where would butter be? What is butter? A sugar, a lipid, a protein?
A lipid.
A lipid. Very good. We're going to get that one right. Okay. Remember the difference between a vegetarian and a person who eats meat, right? You have to, eating meat provides you with all the amino acids. If you're a vegetarian, you got to have all the different types of vegetables to get all the important amino acids. There's a question about vitamins, the water soluble that our body gets rid of versus the fat soluble that can build up to toxic levels. Okay, one question on hypertonic, isotonic, and hypotonic cells. Then there's one question about exocytosis and endocytosis. Here's a question about prokaryotic versus eukaryotic cell sort of things. Okay, the formula for photosynthesis. What 3 things does the plant need? Carbon dioxide, water, sunlight energy. It produces glucose, C6H12O6, and oxygen, right? Respiration takes glucose and oxygen and produces carbon dioxide, water, and 36 ATP energy molecules. It's coming closely, right? Where are we? Okay, exocytosis. Yep, C3, C4. Remember that canned plants are found in the deserts, right? C4 plants are like sugarcane that absorb carbon dioxide all the time. Now, how many ATP energy molecules does fermentation produce? 4. There's lactic acid and alcoholic fermentation, right? Aerobic respiration produces 36. Okay. Now there's a lot. Put a star by mitosis. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 questions on mitosis and meiosis in the cell cycle. Know what goes on the S1, the SG1 and G2 stages? Okay, there's no pictures of mitosis, but there's matching, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, whatever, and what goes on. Okay? And compare and contrast mitosis and meiosis. There's a question about the difference between mitosis and meiosis. Okay, in DNA, what lines up with A?
T.
We're not talking, see, if you were my high school students, I would have jumped on you. I said, we're not talking about your grades, okay? We're talking what matches up with A. Okay, T. What matches up with C?
G.
G. Okay, know that. That's on the test. Okay. There's mitosis. Know the differences. Okay. Somatic cells are normal cells. They're diploid. Gametes are sex cells. Are haploid. Let's see where that's coming up on. Okay. We're still on mitosis. There's something about cancer on mitosis. Okay. Know the 3 types of cancers. Add that to your study question. There's one question. We have benign, malignant, and metastasis. Wow, there is even more. I'll probably cross them out. Okay? There's 4 more questions about mitosis and meiosis. Okay?
You want to cross them out or give us the?
Good, yeah, we got about 6 or 7 questions about mitosis and meiosis, so don't blow that one over. Okay. What are we missing? Okay, see the somatic cells? Just something else. Okay, I'm taking some of those out. Somatic cells are diploid, are gametes, are haploid, right? Are the result of meiosis. Okay, no, homozygous, heterozygous. Homozygous dominant, homozygous recessive. Haploid, diploid, dominant, recessive. Know the terminology and be able to identify chromosomes. There's 1-2 scenario questions. If you cross a tall plant with a short plant, what are the offsprings? It will always define what is dominant. And it'll always tell you what's recessive. You have to put a little Punnett square next to it and you figure out, are they all tall, 50-50 tall, 75-25 tall, right? Okay, know our blood types. Okay, know our blood types. AB, remember AB is codominant, O is recessive, B can be B or BB or BO, right? Okay. There are complex genetics such as sex-linked, polygenic, and codominance, right? Know what happens in each one of those. 1 question's on that. Okay, how do fossils help in showing evolution? Okay, know the theory of common ancestry, that all organisms have a common ancestry. And then Darwin's theory of the theory of evolution is based on natural selection, right? While some organisms have traits that are more favorable for the survival than other traits, right? That is it. Okay, we got this.